We can anticipate a summer that will probably be filled with crime and violence at unprecedented levels, with the potential danger to be included amongst some of the worst kinds of tragedies that can happen in our society. People are distressed. People don't have any money. Families are deteriorating. The church is not really serving the needs of certain kinds of people. The political infrastructure is in disarray and chaos, and it's not something that you can get into alignment super quick. It takes time because you have two parties that are in opposition to one another with different issues, different priorities and objectives. We can anticipate a spring and summer filled with all kinds of sexual entrapment, sexual enticement, sexual assault, unwanted advances, and of course, sexual harassment. This election cycle was a result of something no one anticipated. And some of the factors that dictated how this particular election cycle turned out had to do with these things that I have described in terms of alleged sexual impropriety that violates women. And one way to gain retribution, revenge, for purposes of shame, embarrassment, ridicule, and humiliation is to make it look like someone is a sexual predator. And you heard members of the political body and members of the administration calling people just that, literally, in public. These issues that I have described to you are going to be things that we will be faced with from the political arena all the way down to the common people. And the press is going to be the main source in some regards of who gets justice and who doesn't. Because if you don't get any press for your situation, if you don't have anybody helping protect you and your information, history tells us that you can be railroaded, you can be framed, and you can be put into a position where you look like you're a part or have done something, whether you did it or not. This is not something that's exclusive to men. Women will be faced with these issues too, but men will be faced with it more so because of the patterns in history, male aggression in some regards, and the fact that it's easy for women to team up and collectively make claims against people that they want to be against. You're going to see women who are pregnant, who had planned on exploiting the idea that they thought they would be getting some fringe benefits as a result of gender if the election cycle had gone differently. And those women are going to retaliate. They're going to be angry at men for their personal sex. They went out, had sex, and got pregnant. And now they believe that somebody owes them something. A woman does not lose her role and responsibility to her society on the basis that she is pregnant or that she has reared a child. As a matter of fact, she has more responsibility to her society and to people because she procreates, because the society has to be the one that helps her take care of that baby in the world in which we live, or if she has more than one baby, the family that she has. And so this culture of disrespect is going to haunt us because basically it comes down to this. Some people have money and means and some don't. Some people can provide for their families and some can't. And when you're talking about the consequence to the people on the basis that they just don't have enough to provide for themselves, and then you have some people in the wealth class or who have a little more rubbing it in and making them look bad, making them look too poor, making them not look good enough, buying them out of their relationships and all of this kind of stuff that you see happen quite frequently. We can anticipate jealous rages, crimes of passion, love triangles, and more. Some people feel trapped by relationships anyway, whether it's an employee relationship, whether it's a personal, intimate relationship or whatever. And a lot of people have been seeking ways to get out of them. And a lot of people use crime as that mechanism. Now, I'm warning you, this spring and summer, a system is being plotted right now in law enforcement. And I am not anti-blue. I'm pro-blue. But they have an underground system in law enforcement that is preparing to perpetuate crime and violence in a way that it's never been perpetuated to justify the need for policing. The only way you can justify the need is if there's crime. And there needs to be gruesome, bloody crime, tears, and all of this other stuff. Child abduction and all the things the FBI studies and the behavioral science unit to create serial killers, serial rapists, spree killers, mass murderers. That's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. And the people that want retaliation, the people that want revenge, the people that want to get even for what happened during this election cycle, they may have some involvement in some of it. And unfortunately, and fortunately, some of it may even be deserved and justified. And I don't know how to make that sound correct, but some people have done such bad things and gotten away with it so many times and for so long, they kind of have it coming. And you don't want to wish that upon anybody. But what I'm saying is you don't want to be in the company of the people who have mistreated other people. I have said from day one, and when you look through my material, that you have to be careful how you treat people. When nobody has any money, when there's a wealth class separation in leadership, where people can take advantage of people who have less, you're going to see things like robbery, home invasion, business invasion, and other things that people do to try to get money. You're going to see an increase in the sales of drugs and narcotics and psychotropic pills, because if you promote a mental health agenda, that means there's going to be a lot of pharmaceutical distribution of mind-altering drugs. And people are going to sell those drugs for street value, for narcotic value, as a supplemental income to do the things that they don't get. See, we don't have any jobs going into this election cycle. We don't have any opportunities to gain and get your hands on real economics that can sustain you and your family in this election cycle. And so we can anticipate problems because there's division socially for civil rights and constitutional agendas and more. And all of this is running simultaneously. So for those of you who care, those of you who want to protect yourselves, those of you who have a conscience and a heart, you need to listen to this, because it might be the only defense that you have to prevent yourself from being the victim of society. And when you become society's victim, society does not necessarily care what kind of person that you are. Because when people's emotions reach a certain point and height, and when their fear, anger, and rage reaches a certain dimension, everybody's in danger. And we didn't end up here by happenstance. It can't be blamed on Donald Trump. It can't be blamed on some one individual. It took a collective effort for us to be here, a collective effort of things that were done and a collective effort for things that were not done that led us to the position that we're in. And somebody has to be a better leader to tell us what we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to be doing it, to be included and be productive as a citizen to turn this cycle around. And it won't be easy. It will take some time. And I believe that Donald Trump will probably be met with some type of opposition every step of the way, every move that he makes. I believe that society has a way of mirroring for you what they believe you subjected upon the process in society. But if I think about who might be able to handle that portion of it, there's no person better to handle those kinds of adversities. But it's not about whether you can handle your personal adversity. It's about whether or not you can handle your personal adversity and then keep society and our politics of governance in this country in balance. It won't be easy. It's going to be more difficult than it's ever been. And there are going to be people who have their legacies at stake depending on whether or not they help Donald Trump succeed or whether they help Donald Trump fail. And you can already see that members of certain social agendas associated with race are already in opposition to him. Some of it is deserved and some of it is not deserved. Some of it is self-inflicted and some of it has been subjected upon him. And there's no way for us to predict and anticipate everything that can happen. But we want to at least give this man an opportunity to start off on level footing and see if what he's trying to do can work for us. It takes cooperation, it takes collaboration, and it takes willingness, something that his predecessors were often unwilling to do. And so at the same time, this election cycle gave us something that we weren't expecting. It's a very unique opportunity, and we'll just have to see how that goes. I hope you will do your part to make your contribution as a responsible person to your society, because it's hard. It's difficult. And if you have not served anyone beyond yourself, if you're selfish, you're greedy and entitled, some kind of way, history and the circle of life has a way of catching up with you. You don't get away with it. You might get away with it for a while, but it always catches up. So try to do the right thing if you can. Try to set people on the course of empowerment rather than trying to destroy people, because this is the biggest culture of embarrassment and ridicule, public embarrassment and ridicule, filled with libel, slander, defamation, fake news, and other forms of mass dissemination through social network media that we have ever been in. Nobody's going to know what the truth is. Nobody's going to know what they can trust, and nobody's going to know where they can be safe. Meaning that we are in the midst of the biggest public paranoia campaign in the history of this country. And God bless the people who have an education and actual experience, because you used to only need education and you used to only need experience. Now you need both of them. And the part that's called experience, you can't replace that. That's not something you can just have. It's something that you have to have lived. And if you're disrespectful, if you're not grateful, don't expect that people that are experienced, that know what's going on, are going to be as willing to share with you when they know the value of that. Because all people are doing now is looking out for themselves. They want to take what other people worked for and make it benefit them, and they don't believe they're not supposed to do anything for that end. And so let's see where we go as a nation when we have a reversal of fortune, where instead of the people that came from the bottom rise to the top, the people that are already at the top have an opportunity to show us what it would mean and how they would lead if they have what they need already, and other people's livelihoods are kind of at their disposal, if you will. Again, all of the predecessors and decades of people who have been in Congress and other forms of leadership in the past brought us where we are today. It's not Donald Trump, and I don't believe they should be able to dump everything that they failed to do or were unwilling to do on him just because they were not able to persuade the election to turn out how they wanted it to, because they didn't do what it took to secure that position. Because some people were sabotaging their own election process and their own partisan influence. And so let's just see how things turn out. I believe my generation has an imperative objective to make sure that we start to define who we are and what we know as a generation right now. We're more valuable right now than we have ever been. And I just hope that some of you are prepared to take on those roles that will lead us into the future. Because our elders have kind of pushed their agendas to the point of fatigue, and they've lost relevance with us. And it's up to us to inherit what they did well and take it forward. And you got to be your own unique person, not just jump on a cultural bandwagon and do something that will define your identity as a generation for years to come, and do so positively and constructively. If you continue these constructive behaviors, the drug epidemic, the party culture, and all of this kind of stuff, the sexual revolution in terms of, immorality, if you will, and I'm not a public moralist, but the kind of stuff that's beyond vanity, natural vanity and human attraction, then you kind of have to anticipate that you're going to have problems that come as a result of that. And so what can we do to at least balance this out and get everything into perspective where it's supposed to be, instead of trying to dwell on what we think the outcomes of things will be before we ever see it come to pass? I'm not stacking anything against the president-elect. If anything gets stacked upon him, it'll be because of something that he stacked against himself or that he caused. I'm not just going to jump on a cultural bandwagon and hold something against him just because everybody else is saying bad things. That's not fair. And that's how we ended up in the position we ended up in the first place. And let's see what he actually does that gives us reason for our judgment and how we want to view him as a leader. It won't be easy. It won't be difficult. Some people don't want him. He will be met with opposition every step of the way, every decision, without question. And some people are going to be extreme about that opposition, and we need to be prepared to see things that we have never seen come to pass in public politics.